Good morning, Desert Sands Educational Foundation community on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. This is Sean Webb, the Director of the Foundation and the Director of Community Engagement for Desert Sands. Exciting Tuesday morning. We've got morning coffee with Chef Mary. How you doing, Chef Mary?
Oh my gosh, I'm doing great. I'm back in Big Bear, and it's nice and cool this morning.
Okay.
And my Blue Jays are out there screaming and yelling because they haven't been fed for like 4 days.
Oh boy.
But the weather is gorgeous. The trees are green. I haven't been out of the house yet, so I don't know what it's like outside my front door. But I did, yesterday I decided to cook for myself this weekend. So I made my mother's, who was from New Orleans, red beans and rice. So it cooked all night long. This morning I woke up and I went, oh, I'm going to have red beans and rice for breakfast. And I did.
I could just smell the aromas right now. I wish I were there.
Gosh, oh my gosh. It just brings back so many memories of being in her kitchen. And that was a staple for us for years because that's what we could afford to eat.
Okay, so I'm going to put in a request. Tara and I are going to be up in Big Bear the end of July and part of early August. I'm going to put in a request for red beans and rice, please.
You got it. Oh my, I'm a queen of red beans and rice.
I've heard about it. I've heard stories about it. I've never had them though. So I definitely want to try.
Well, if we had television.
That'd be the next thing on television, right? Apple TV's got to have that.
Exactly.
So how was your weekend?
It was good. We actually took our first time in roasting a 40-pound suckling pig.
Oh my, okay.
It freaked a lot of people out, and it kind of freaked me out when we kind of got him all ready. And we did decide not to give it a name because the kids would relate to a name. So we're in the smoker at like 6:30 in the morning. And I think we brought him out about 4:30. Okay. And then it did everything it wanted to do. Steve had his little YouTube thing reading about how to do it. And I think he was nervous because you can't, you have your internal temperature probes. Right. But it only cooks at like 225. So it takes a long process.
Oh, yeah.
But it turned out great. We took a lot of pictures. We just had fun. It was just a small little gathering, and we just had a good time. It was fun.
Okay. Excellent. It sounds like a real special gathering for the 4th.
Yeah, we did. We put up a movie screen out back. So Dana, Steve, and Maddie and I, we sit out in the patio and watch movies.
Okay.
And the fireworks were everywhere around us. I mean, there was nowhere around us that there wasn't fireworks, north, east, south, and west. It was crazy.
Well, speaking of fireworks and speaking of the 4th, this is one of the first 4th of Julys. And I'm actually here in the desert. And yeah, I agree. There was definitely a lot of fireworks everywhere, even though I live in La Quinta and you're not supposed to have fireworks. There was definitely just right down the street from me, people shooting them all over the place.
Yeah, they went on until about 10:30 at night. And we saw a lot of, there's a lot of, cars and things and helicopters floating around. But it was okay. It was fun. We decided not to go anywhere. We decided not to do anything. We just hooked up put a big sheet on the side of the house and watched some movie about rats and squirrels. I don't know. It was not my favorite.
Okay, well, you're with your granddaughter that you get to spend some special time.
Exactly.
Definitely. So, as we've been doing the whole month, we've been highlighting our incredible, talented Desert Sands staff. This morning, we are lucky to have with us one of our staff members, our public information officer, who you know well, Mary Perry, and I'm going to bring her on screen here. We can talk about her talents and some of her experiences and so forth.
Good morning,
Mary.
Hi, two of my favorite people. I'm great. You guys? Miss you, Mary.
Oh my gosh, I miss having you in my old kitchen, and yeah, it was a good time. You were always so good to be there with us, which we really appreciated.
Oh, I loved it. You were talking about making your red beans and rice. I made my mother's homemade soup over the weekend. So yeah, brings back a lot of memories, right?
I bet,
it does. I mean, it's like something you could eat all day long.
That's right.
Well, Mary Perry, I'm very fortunate today. I'm stuck in the StreamYard world with two Marys. I love being here. Thank you. But why don't you give us a brief introduction of yourself? You know, not everybody knows who you are in the Desert Sands Educational Foundation community. We know you're a board member. Maybe if you can introduce yourself to the viewers that are watching.
Sure, I am a very proud member of the Desert Sands Educational Foundation Board. Really enjoy working with the team to support our schools. And in my day job, I'm the Public Information Officer for Desert Sands Unified School District. And a lot of people say, what the heck is that? And so the Public Information Officer is basically the person who does the marketing for the school district. If I was back in my old time career in the corporate world, it would be called probably the director of marketing, would be the equivalent position. So my job is to tell the world how incredibly wonderful our students are, our staff, our programs, and then of course the always more challenging part of the job is to deal with things when they happen and we need to talk to the media and explain how a certain circumstance might have taken place and what we're going to do to make it even better. So that's my current job in a nutshell. I have over 8 years of experience in the marketing field. I began my career in corporate America and then transitioned to the nonprofit world and ultimately here to the school district. And in case you can't tell, I am not a native Californian. I was born and brought up in Massachusetts. I married my high school sweetheart after we graduated from college, and thus began the great adventure, which I know both of you know we celebrated our 44th wedding anniversary on the 4th of July.
Congratulations.
I know, right? We were married on the 4th of July, 1976. So those of you old enough to remember, that was the bicentennial. So we had a military wedding, red, white, and blue, walked down the aisle when all the bells in the United States were ringing at the same time. So it really was the beginning of a great adventure. And we've been living that adventure and dream ever since.
I actually saw some of your photos that you posted on Facebook of everything of your anniversary. They're just absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing those with all of us.
Thanks. It was fun. We had,
Mary, did you see any of those photos?
Did you see those, Mary?
Yes, I did. Oh my gosh, it's like traveling in all over the world is just such a great way to just live and live outside of your comfort zone.
Right. And you know what we did is we started traveling when we were young, and we said to each other, we're not going to wait until we're retired and see the world, because so many people who wait to do that never get to realize that dream. Physically, you're not able to do it, or other circumstances get in the way. So we put travel as our top priority right from the very beginning.
So you guys have kind of transitioned right into this, and the beautiful thing is, you've taken and documented some of your trips, and you're going to share with us today. And I want to just put those up on screen.
Thanks. I sent you the international travel, but I do have to say we've been to every one of the 50 states, and we've truly visited every one of the 50 states. We have gone to do something special. And it started right after, we came back from our honeymoon. Ed got his orders. We were living in Massachusetts, and we were heading to Georgia for our first assignment. Great thing. Send a couple from Massachusetts to a state you can't even pronounce. But so we were going to Georgia, and we left and took 30 days to get there. Now, picture your U.S. map, and the drive straight down from Massachusetts to Georgia does not take a month. But we headed across the northern part of the United States, down California, back across the southern part, and then ended up in Georgia. We've done 3 cross-country trips, driving, in order to make sure we've been to every state. So I'm sorry, you can bring back Antarctica now.
No problem. I love hearing about all these stories. I love traveling. My family owned a travel agency. That's how I got out here to California. Yeah. I had the great free airfare to travel back and forth to interview. And
nice.
If not for that, I don't know if I'd be here, but I'm glad because of the travel industry. That's why I'm here. But
and I would tell you, just pack Brooklyn up and take her with you. We never let that stop us. Marcy, as she will tell you, has been around the world.
And you're going to share some pictures here where I saw that she looks like she's a teenager. But please share what's going on here.
So this is Antarctica. Antarctica was our 7th continent to visit. It was our final one. And I would direct you to the bottom black and white photo. That is what the seas look like as the Pacific Ocean meets the Atlantic Ocean. at the very tip of South America. And you can see the sign up at the top says Ushuaia, which is in Argentina, the end of the world. So the whale is right outside. You can see the white line that I left in. I didn't crop that out because that's the ship.
Okay.
And so the whale was right there. And of course the penguin with the baby. And I took probably hundreds and hundreds of pictures of penguins. And then I came back and realized they all look alike. So, but I've got hundreds of them, and they were wonderful. They were so cute and so wonderful to watch. They didn't care that we were there at all. They ignored us.
One tuxedo looks the same.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, another penguin. So that was probably the most the most difficult journey. Getting to Antarctica is not fun. It's it's almost 2 days of being in a washing machine and trying to hold on to the sides of your bunk till you get there. You go in a small boat. It's a small expedition ship. And once you're there, it's absolutely gorgeous. And then you realize you have to come back.
So you're not like in a luxury cruise line going over
No,
Antarctica.
this is an expedition ship. And it was wonderful. I mean, they have the crew plays the guitar at night. They have lectures. We chat. There's an open bar, Mary. Woo! So it's great fun. Mary and I have a whole other story about that. But anyway, it's great fun, and you get to really meet the passengers and get to be very close with them.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's check out where your next trip is here.
So the other one is to the top of the world. So this, of course, is the Arctic. We went on the Arctic adventure with National Geographic and Lindblad Travels, and it too was an expedition ship, a small ship. Actually, you can see it at the bottom. That's what an expedition ship looks like with the walruses. And so the polar bears, I think we saw about a dozen polar bears. They were all absolutely gorgeous and healthy. I was going to put a picture of a kill, but for some reason I didn't put that one in there. But a polar bear eating a seal was, the circle of life. Yeah. And of course, there are Ed and I in our Zodiac approaching some of the glaciers and ice flows. And I had to put the caribou at the bottom. And so those of you who travel know that it's a caribou if it's in the wild, and if it's domesticated, it's a reindeer. So Santa has reindeer, but they're caribou first. And then once you domesticate them, they become reindeer.
Oh, interesting.
I know, right? I never knew that. I thought that was really fascinating.
Okay. I did not know that either.
We're here to learn.
Yes,
obviously,
definitely.
Australia, I did these in alphabetical order, not in the order that they were taken. So Sydney Opera House, those are actually wallabies, not kangaroos in the center photo. The koala, having eaten too many eucalyptus leaves, is asleep. And the bottom photo is actually the Great Barrier Reef. And so we helicoptered out to the Great Barrier Reef, and you can see the darker circles are the Great Barrier Reef itself. And we landed by that boat that's out there, the bigger boat, and went snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef. But neither Marcy nor I were willing to share pictures of us in our bathing suits. So you're only seeing the Great Barrier Reef from afar. But we loved Australia. We traveled all over the continent. We went to Cooper Pedy, where the opal mines are. Marcy and I have souvenirs to prove it. And we stayed in an underground hotel because Cooper Pedy is a desert and it's very hot. And the hotel is truly underground in caves. So someday I'll share those photos with you.
Yeah, that'd be
and the
great.
opal mines, the opal mines are all around. And then we went to a place called Kangaroo Island, which we had researched and now has become a pretty popular tourist attraction, but it wasn't back when we went. Marcy would have been, I think, in middle school when we went there. And so Kangaroo Island is a preserve that Australia has set aside for their wildlife. And we saw lots and lots of wildlife, but some of it was elusive. And one thing that was elusive was a platypus. We staked a place out where they said we would see them, but we didn't. So when we returned to Sydney, we went to the Sydney Zoo so that we could see the animals we hadn't seen, including a platypus and an echidna and a Tasmanian devil.
Okay.
I know. Most of our travel is focused around animals and wildlife.
Now, since you were in the Great Barrier Reef area, did you go diving or snorkeling or
We
anything
went
like that?
snorkeling. We went
Okay.
snorkeling. What they did is they had an area sort of roped off, I guess you'd call it, by the boat. And there were experts in the water with us explaining things. And the reason we did snorkeling rather than diving is so that we could actually interact with the guides who were explaining what we were seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So that we, when you dive, there's no verbal communication, obviously. So this way you could come back up to the surface and you could talk about what you had seen and they would explain it to you.
Okay. Okay. Well, you've got some amazing adventures here, and I just want to share that we do have. This is Lori McGurkurth Enroth. Said that this is wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And then
Thank you, Lori.
And then we also have Stephanie Smith, who both Chef Mary and I know very well.
So do I. Hi, Steph.
Yeah, so we got about 10 live viewers. Pretty cool.
Ooh,
They want to hear about
okay.
your travels. Now I know the person in this picture here.
Okay, everybody guess who that young lady is holding the crocodile. So that picture is from Brazil, and it was one of our first cruises. We've been on close to 40 cruises. That's 40 cruises,
Wow.
in addition to all the land travel we do. And this was a cruise of the Amazon River. It was spectacular. I know you've heard of the pink dolphins in the Amazon. We saw the pink dolphins, we saw piranha, and we stopped at several villages. But this was the very first night that we got on the ship. So we went crocodile hunting, caiman hunting. And they took us off of the big ship, which was the Princess cruise ship, onto a boat. And then we sailed out into the dark of the Amazon jungle, and they put us into small, almost like canoe boats. I think there were probably 6 of us in this boat. And the boat driver would go around the edge of the water and land looking for 2 red dots. So if there are 2 red dots close to each other, those are the eyes of the size of the caiman that Marcy is holding. But if they're like this, that's mama, and you don't want to get too close. And so they would pull right in and they would grab the crocodile by the neck and bring him onto the boat so that we could see him. And we brought one back to the bigger boat, and they put the crocodile laying on its back and they rub its belly, and it kind of goes into stasis mode. It's the funniest thing. And so then, of course, we released it. It was not crocodile hunting. None of the hunting we do involves harming animals. We really love animals, and we go to see them and experience life in the wild. So there's Marcy holding, I think that one was about 4 feet in length. And then released him into the wild. And then on the other side are 2 pictures from Russia, just because I wanted to put pictures together really quickly. And I know, Sean, you've spent a lot of time in Russia.
Yeah, I spent about a month there, 2 weeks in February and March in the 90s. I got to go as a high school program, and geez, it was fantastic. And I know exactly where you are there. You're Red Square, and that's is that St. Michael's behind you?
It is. And so the reason for that, my husband was in the Air Force. He retired after 16 years of service, took an early out package right after the second Gulf War. And so he did a lot of non-uniform wearing duty in the military. So there was a lot of things he did that I actually don't really know about. But one of his dreams was to go to Russia and to stand in Red Square. And he was absolutely just amazed by the color of Moscow. The architecture is beautiful and so many colors, because he had seen Russia through the eyes of black and white satellite photos. So it was an experience that really meant the world to him.
So when I was there, it was in February and March, and it was still very cold, and there was a lot of snow, but it was all slushy snow. And the joke of the trip was that we wanted to come back and open up car washes because nobody had cars washed whatsoever.
Funny.
Yeah. But I want to point out that your daughter is watching, and she's very grateful to be able to travel with you guys.
She's a wonderful traveling companion.
I bet. If you ever need, another family to go along, you just let me know.
Oh, yeah, me too.
That's what her kids say. So, of course, her son is 13. And when he was, I don't know, probably 7 or so, he was looking at pictures of Africa that we'll get to, I know, later in this series of pictures. And he said, well, when are you going to bring me to Africa? And we said, when you're 10. And so we did. And so we'll
Okay.
get to that one. And he once said to his grandfather, I'll never ask you to go anywhere, but I'll go anywhere you want to take me. So in addition to his mother being a great travel companion, he has been a wonderful partner in our journeys, and his sister is 4. And so we've taken her to a couple places. She's been to New York City, she's been to Alaska, she's been to the Caribbean. So we'll continue, I'm sure, to induct her into the family hobby.
That's
so
awesome.
Of course,
That is
China.
awesome. Yeah, okay.
We spent 30 days in the Far East. We took a 30-day summer break, probably, I don't know, 15 years ago. And so on the right, of course, is the Great Wall, and that's Ed in the yellow shirt, walking the Great Wall. It was such a fun experience because I couldn't walk as far as he did. And so he, left and walked, and I kind of stood on the side in this little alcove and waited. And all these people from China would come and they'd throw their babies in my arms and say, picture, picture, and they'd want to take my picture with their baby. So all these people in China have a picture of me in their photo album. I'm sure it's labeled crazy, crazy American lady. But, we looked so different. I had long hair at the time, white, still white, but shoulder length hair. And I'm sure it was such an anomaly for them to see that. And they wanted to practice their English. So the few words that we knew in Chinese weren't very helpful because they really didn't care. But it was fun. You can see we saw the terracotta warriors. We did a cruise on the Yangtze River before they opened the dam and flooded some of the really beautiful areas that are along the river. Did everything you're supposed to do in China. We also went to, in this journey, it was part cruise, part land tour. We did Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, which was really meaningful to us, having grown up in the Vietnam War era. We went to, I know I shared with Sean, we went to South Korea, where of course his family comes from. So that was really exciting. It was 30 days of such beauty and wonder and education.
Oh, I bet. I want to share that in the comments, people are commenting who's done more cruises, you or Jim Duke. And Jim Duke is watching. And by the way,
of course, we have cruised with Jim Duke.
Okay. Well, he says hello.
We did a cruise with Jim a couple years ago. Had a wonderful time, and the folks who Sean from E&E Pals were on the cruise with us as well. So we had a wonderful time.
Yeah, he's done 88 cruises. So
yeah,
he's got
I'm not
2 to 1, Mary.
And we will cruise with him again. I promise, Jim. Okay. Cuba. So we went to Cuba with a Canadian company. So we flew to Jamaica and got on a Canadian small ship and went to Cuba. So you can see Ed is toasting you, Mary, with his mojito.
Oh, good.
And then, of course, the cars that everybody talks about in Cuba. I remember those cars when I was a kid. That's exactly the kind of cars that my parents had back in the 50s. And then one of the surprising wildlife in Cuba, one of these giant lizards. So when I sent Sean this picture, he said, well, what's that one on the bottom, the dark out of focus one? Well, that, my friends, is Guantanamo Bay. And so we were in the boat and we were circumnavigating Cuba. And the captain, pulled up as far as he could, or what he thought he could, to show us the lights of Guantanamo Bay. And over the radio came someone from Gitmo who said, please pull back. And so we did. And then we left. But that is Guantanamo. Mm-hmm.
It faintly looks like a bunch of bottles that are in lights.
It does. You wouldn't think it would look so pretty, but those are the guard towers.
So where are we here?
This is the Holy Lands. So this was a tour we did. Marcy, I think, who's down at the bottom by the Sphinx. Marcy would have probably been in an early high school year when we did this.
I was going to say like 8th or 9th grade there.
Yeah, and so of course there she is by the Sphinx. Now the top one, I know it's kind of fuzzy. Some of these pictures I took a picture of in the photo album to send you. But that top one is the Garden of Gethsemane. And for us, we went to Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Nazareth, did this beautiful, beautiful Holy Lands tour. And the place that we felt the most connected to our faith was the Garden of Gethsemane, with the olive trees that are hundreds or thousands of years old. So some of the olive trees were there during the time that Jesus Christ was also in the Garden of Gethsemane. So that was very moving. The one with all the lanterns, that's Bethlehem. You may realize Bethlehem is, of course, in Palestine, not in Israel. It's actually in Palestine. And we had special permission to come by bus into Palestine in order to go to Bethlehem. And upon returning a few months later, that particular site, which is the site of the stable, that particular site actually was overrun, and there was hostages taken. And so it's a little bit scary to think of. And then Marcy in front of the Sphinx, we were the first tourists to return to Egypt following an attack on some German tourists at the pyramids. So they took very good care of us. We had armed guards on the buses. There were armed guards on the camels standing, watching us as we did our tours. So while you might think that sounds scary, it actually makes you feel very safe to know nobody's going to do anything. And then the picture, the bottom picture, is Pope John Paul II. And before we went on our tour to the Holy Lands, I had written to the Vatican to ask if there was any possibility of any kind of an audience while we were there. And as it turned out, the Pope on New Year's Eve was going to be conducting a service at a small church, not really small, but a church in Rome. And I was able to get tickets. Oh, and wow. I know Marcy wants to weigh in on this one, so I think she's probably typing away as we're looking at this. But this was the last day of our trip, and Marcy was really sick. She had a fever, she had the chills, she really had the flu, and didn't want to miss going to see the Pope. So a few days before, we had gone to the Vatican and done the tour, and we had bought, rosaries for our mothers, and we had holy water from the River Jordan that we brought. We brought that all with us because the Pope was going to do a general blessing. So poor Marcy was pretty much in the back of the church during most of this time, crouched down, and she had a very sweet Italian lady come over and pat her on the head and say, "It'll be okay." But then Marcy had to face the big long flight home the next day, and then I think she pretty much crashed for several days before returning to school. So thanks for being a trooper, Marcy.
And there you go. Exactly as you shared it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I know she wouldn't have missed it.
I had the privilege of seeing the Pope also. This was back in 2000. I graduated college and I backpacked throughout Europe, but I didn't see him in this type of fashion. I actually saw him in the Vatican, and he was actually in the Pope Mobile when I saw him.
Wow, how fun.
Yeah, we were in the Vatican square there, and they brought him around, and they had him in that behind the bulletproof glass, and it looked like a converted Jeep.
Do you know which Pope it was?
It was Pope John Paul II. Yeah.
This was not long before he passed.
Yep.
And so we were, very glad to be able to see him, but it was very neat.
Oh, he looked very frail. Like I was surprised that he was holding on as they were driving that Jeep with him on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked very frail. Okay. Wow. You did some amazing trips here.
Mary, you and I have, I traveled a lot as well. And the stories that you were telling almost mirrored things that happened to us. We were in South Africa, and one of the things they said was, look for the red eyes. If the red eyes are too far apart, don't be looking.
Yeah.
I was in Italy when I was pregnant with Steve, and we had taken a tour. We decided to take a tour. I was like 7 months or whatever, and we said, no, we're going to take the tour because we'll never get to go. And I'm in this boat, and we're going into the Blue Grotto, and you have to crunch down to get in there. And so this guy comes up to me and he goes, no, the mama with the bambino, she goes in first. I could barely breathe, and down underneath we went. But it was like those experiences that when you travel, they
Yeah.
almost mirror each other with the, we lived in Germany and during the Baader-Meinhof gang, and we were all buried in with tanks and whatever, feeling actually quite safe, but wasn't safe on the other side.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that we've learned from traveling, and you know, we say we've been in all 50 states, all 7 continents, the Arctic, and 72 countries. And one of the things that, and I think the top thing that comes out of all of it is that people are the same in every single country that you go to. Absolutely. We've been to Palestine, we've been to Russia, we've been all over Europe, South America, the Asian countries that we visited, and people are wonderful. People are absolutely wonderful wherever we've been. So this is our, if it's Tuesday, it must be London kind of picture. This is Europe. And so Marcy was graduating from college, and she said, hey, let's go do Europe. Let's just go do Europe. And we said, well, we'll get you a backpack. And she said, no, you don't understand. I want to do Europe like we travel. And so we did. And so we cruised Europe and went to various places. And so obviously the standard Marcy holding up the Leaning Tower of Pisa photo.
Yeah, we love that.
I know, we all have those in front of the Eiffel Tower. And that furry little guy over there is a Barbary ape on the Rock of Gibraltar. And they are mean little creatures. They jump on people's heads. They take their hats. So we were a bit intimidated by the Barbary apes. But for us, as I've said, most of our travel revolves around wildlife. So I didn't want to not have the European wildlife. So that's the Barbary ape, Stonehenge. And this, I think, explains me and who I am and what I do perfectly, because that is me kissing the Blarney Stone.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're COVID free.
I'm COVID free and I got no problem. So, and if you notice, I'm even wearing green. So I guess I was really prepared to go back to my Irish roots and kiss that Blarney Stone.
Hey, real quick, I want to say you got a follower, and I'm sure he's saying hi to both Marys. You've got, I want to put this comment up here. This is Deputy Contreras.
Hey, Rick. Hi.
Yeah.
And so we're both going to say, Rick, thank you for everything you do. We so appreciate you. Mm-hmm.
I agree completely.
So if you don't know what this is the Galapagos.
Okay.
And it was one of our dream trips. So Ed and I went, sorry, Marcy, she didn't get to go on this one. So obviously the giant tortoise, the iguanas, and the frigate birds, and that is their name, frigate bird, it's one word. And that's a male saying, hey, ladies.
There's big chest out there. I love it.
So that was definitely a highlight of our lives. We so wanted to go to the Galapagos and see what Charles Darwin was talking about.
Yeah, seriously. Did you travel on a boat like the Beagle, or were you on a ship, a beautiful ship?
Well, it wasn't quite the Beagle, but it was the same kind of ship. We did the Arctic and the Antarctic. So it was
an expedition ship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And here we are in India. So we did India 2 years ago, Ed and I. We look very tired in that photo. So clearly the Taj Mahal, our hotel, actually the window from our room in the hotel had a perfect view of the Taj Mahal as well. Okay. And going to India was just fabulous. And thank you to AC Patel, who I know you also both know, who took us to dinner before we left and told us all the things that we should see and made special arrangements for us to have a private tour of a gorgeous temple that he has friends and family who
that's amazing.
There. Yeah, so thanks to AC. And so in the corner right there, you can see our friend the tiger. So we went to I'm going to have a little sip of water. We went to Ranthambore, which is one of the national preserves in India for tigers. And it's many, many, many square miles in size. And so there's no guarantee that you're going to see a tiger. But we were very fortunate, and we actually saw a number of them. And this guy was just enjoying his day.
Okay, just kind of laying back, legs up in the air.
Yeah, like, hey, here I am. They're huge, absolutely huge.
Beautiful.
So beautiful, just incredibly beautiful. And you go to see them, and we'll get to my Africa pictures, I know, in a minute. You go out in a Jeep. So it's an open Jeep, and the driver looks for the animals, and you're in the Jeep. It was Ed and I and a young family that was, I think, a couple and a child who was in the same Jeep. And again, we did 2 days of trekking in India. We also did a incredible river tour in Varanasi, India, which is a very holy site and has a lot of the cremations take place at the river site. And that was very moving as well.
Okay, very interesting. Let's go to, where are we off to now? Oh,
Okay,
I know where we are.
Yeah, this is Kenya. And Marcy, I know for sure, was a freshman in high school when we did Kenya. And so some of the photos could be mine, some of them could be hers. The kill at the bottom was actually, we had, I think the year we went, just months before the movie Lion King had come out. So the whole idea of circle of life was very much in our minds as we were seeing the sights of the beautiful animals out on the Serengeti. And so the kill, when we saw it, was awesome to know that, one of our guides said, you know what they call gazelles in Africa? And of course we said, what? And he said, lunch. So, but it did remind you of what takes place out in the wild and how they survive. And so it was very moving. And the cheetah on the top of the Jeep, we were in the Jeep facing them, and so took a picture of them sitting there. And the reason that they jump on the Jeep is because cats, like cats everywhere, go to the highest point in order to look for food. And the top of the Jeep was the highest point. So you just are very quiet while this is taking place. And
so
then, of course,
while in Africa and while on your trips and your tours and so forth, what's the most exotic type of food that you've had?
Actually, that's a really good question. I hadn't thought of talking about that. We went to a restaurant in Nairobi in Kenya called The Carnivore. And so they served animals that were from the wild. And so we had zebra. We had, and Ed's sitting over here listening, so I'm sure he'll chime in if I forget anything. So we had zebra, we had ostrich, eland, and the most weird one was crocodile.
Yeah.
And so crocodile tastes like bad shrimp.
It's muddy.
Yeah, it's like, and so we left the restaurant, and our guide said, oh, did you have a good time? And we said, yeah, it was really great, but we really didn't like the crocodile. And he said, well, here, we don't eat anything that eats people. Hey, thank you so much for telling us that now.
You might be eating Uncle Joe.
Yeah. So none of the animals that we ate were hunted. They were animals that, like the zebra and the eland and the ostrich, are actually bred for, much like here we have the ostrich farms here, and the zebra and the eland are the same thing. They are actually bred for food purposes.
I'm guessing those are going to be really gamey, but the animals you're describing, they're going to be really lean meat too. So you got to really bring some flavor to that meat.
Yeah. Well, and I know Mary can relate to this. We ate kangaroo in Australia, and they served it with an amazing raspberry sauce. Yeah. And I think that's why. It's because the meat probably doesn't have all that much flavor of its own, because there is no fat on the meat.
Right.
So it needs those sauces.
Wow.
Mary, when we went to Botswana for a 30-day camping. We did 10 camping with 2 other couples. And we also saw a kill. The hyenas had taken the tail off of a baby elephant. And we followed them all night long to just experience, that circle of life. And like you said, in the beginning, it was kind of what we didn't want to see. But then after a while, you started seeing how the hyenas were like an army talking to each other, and how the herd took the mother and the baby, and they just kept moving. And we were probably like 6 hours in the Jeep watching this. And finally, we left. They left us. They let us go back to the campsite.
Right.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
it's a very moving thing.
Let's see this next one. I've never been, but I really want to go. Why don't you share about this?
This is my picture for Sean. So as many of you know, Sean's mother is South Korean.
Yep.
And so we spent a day in South Korea because we were on a cruise ship. So we just spent the one day and visited temples. And we visited the cemetery from the Korean War, where so many American and European soldiers were buried. And that was really beautiful and very moving. And we didn't have as much time there as we would have liked, but at least we had a little bit of flavor of the country. And again, you can see how beautiful it is.
Oh, no, I want to go. I want to go. I want to go. And hopefully we'll be able to go sometime soon. Who knows? Yeah.
I hope you do.
Yeah. Oh, here's your grandson.
Here's our grandson. And now we're at the other end of the world. So we were in Ushuaia, Argentina earlier that said end of the world. But now we're here at the Cape of Good Hope, which I assume, Mary, you must have been to in South Africa, the tip of South Africa, where we saw penguins because that's how far south it is. And you can see the kind of Jeep that we were in South Africa. We did South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe on this tour. And you can see Aiden taking the pictures of the elephants. We also we flew from here to London, and we spent a couple days in London before we continued the incredibly long flight to South Africa.
Yes, it is.
It's very long. And then when we flew back, we did the same thing. We went back and stayed in London so that we toured London with Aiden, did all the things you're supposed to do in London, including a day out at the studios where they filmed the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. So I know he enjoyed that as well. So there we are.
Amazing experiences for you guys.
Mm-hmm. And I threw this one in here just because I thought it was kind of fun. That the top one, if we go clockwise, the top one, excuse me, is Victoria Falls in Zambia. The one with all the greenery is on the Yangtze River in China. The one at the bottom is Godafoss Falls in Iceland. And then, of course, the familiar Niagara Falls in New York, Canada.
Very nice. I immediately knew that was Niagara Falls when you sent me that.
Yeah. Do you know, Mary, what we also realized, and you brought something up about your friends who had a friend that got you into a private tour. We had that happen more times than you can imagine because they were really excited to be able to entertain us on a private level. We went to a winery in South Africa, in Botswana, actually in Cape Town, that no one ever got to go in. And I was buying a mattress, and this is crazy, where Trader Joe's is in Cathedral City. And the guy that was there has this accent. Well, the gentleman who does the races at Del Mar, Trevor Denman, his parents are from Durban. And I said, oh, you must be from South Africa. And we got talking, and he goes, well, I have friends that own the Meerstok Winery, and I'll make arrangements for a tour, which we got a tour, what you had. And the same thing happened to us when we lived in Germany. We got to take a private tour of the Porsche factory through one of the mechanics who knew the marketing director, and they were very happy to have us do that. I mean, it happened time and time again where we had these great private tours that the general public doesn't get to.
And Jim Duke just replied there that, you know, some of the best tours are from the locals. You just don't know about that.
When we did a cruise. I'm trying to remember why we were in Vancouver, but we were in Vancouver, and I worked for a place in Washington, D.C., a professional association for security directors. And one of the members who I had interacted with owned his own security company in Canada. He was a retired mounted police officer. And I actually did a little work for him, some writing for him. And so we were stopping in Vancouver, and it must have been when we were on our first Alaska visit. And so he pulled up to the dock at the cruise ship terminal in an armored, Mercedes limousine thing, the kind that the president would drive in, to pick the three of us up and take us on our private tour of Vancouver Island. So that was pretty awesome. So you're right, it really is wonderful. And we often make arrangements to have a local guide wherever we are. You know, we laugh, Marcy and Ed and I laugh. And Rick, I'll answer your question in a second. And so we were in Rome and we had a private guide, and he was this very young, a very handsome Italian man with, what do you have that, a Mercedes? Ed's not listening to me. The Italian driver, what kind of car did he use? A Mercedes. And he would just pull up, like he pulled right up to the Trevi Fountain. We were going to go for a tour of the catacombs. And he pulled up and he goes, just wait here. And he walked up to the ladies selling the tickets. And they were all excited that he was in there. And then he walked back out with the 3 tickets for the very next English tour. So, you know, the locals make a big difference. They really do. So, Rick, to answer your question, yes, we do research our own tours. We decide where we want to go, what part of the world, what country we want to go. And then we look up options. And my husband's really good at it. The tour he just set up for us in India 2 years ago was amazing. And again, we use a travel agency that specializes in India. When we went to South Africa and Zambia and Zimbabwe with our grandson, he used a travel agent in South Africa. She actually won the miracles of the internet nowadays. And so that was totally planned with a local travel agency and guide. And oftentimes we will do cruises because, as Jim will tell you, they stop everywhere you want to go. So you get this world tour without having to unpack your suitcase. And so that's been really great. And so we've done a lot of visiting countries via cruise ship. We also had a wonderful, wonderful friend who was our travel agent, who was based in Palos Verdes, California when we lived there, who passed away very suddenly, and we miss her so much. And she planned our Australia trip, she planned our Kenya trip, and so we find someone who can do what we want to do, because we're all 3 of us, Marcy, Ed, and I, in case you didn't know, because the 2 of you obviously know the 3 of us, we're all type A people. And so we want to get there, do it, go, get to the next thing. And exactly. So that's how we travel, right? Exactly. We travel that way. You know, we get there, we see it. Okay, let's go see something else. And so we need to have a travel agent or a person helping us plan a trip who sees the world the way we do. And so
go ahead, Mary.
I have a really good friend of mine, another Mary. I have like 12 Mary friends.
Isn't that funny?
I've known her for like 30 some odd long time, and she's a travel agent. And so nothing like having your best friend be a travel agent. She's well-traveled, well-versed. And so when she put our South Africa trip together, we all sat down and we said, you know, we don't care what it costs, but these are the things that we'd like to do. And she put basically an FIT trip, because I worked for Carlson Travel for a couple of years. And, so when you do those kind of trips, you actually can pick and choose what you really need to see. And then if you have time, you can kind of skip over. But people were there when we needed them. You know, they were there to help us. I took a cruise 2 years ago to Budapest.
Love it.
Oh my God, that was incredible! What a
beautiful city.
And you know, I like to go on a cruise, but I like to be sort of taken care of. Meet me at the airport. Right. I don't want to be in the airport struggling around. I want to be trying to find a car.
Hold a sign up.
That'd be fun. And it's well worth the money to pay that. People who don't want to do that are going to be in for a lot of time wasted.
Right. We have friends who travel totally different from us. They want to go and live on the economy in a country for a week. You know, we're going to go rent a house in Athens, or, you know, on a Greek island or whatever, and just live with the people. And that's a great way to travel if that's what you want to do. But they came back and we'd say, well, did you see this? Did you do that? Did you see this? Oh, no, we didn't. And they had pictures, and we'd say, oh, well, that's that. And they'd say, oh, is that what that is? Because, of course, it's a language barrier that you face as you travel. And so if you don't have someone telling you and helping you navigate, then you're going to have a different experience. And that's fine. If that's the way you want to travel, that's great. But we're like you, Mary. We want someone meeting us at the airport. We want a guide who will take us where we want to go, but we'll also say, hey, on the way, there's this, and you might want to see this.
Exactly.
And part of the fun, as I know Ed will tell you, part of the fun of our travel is planning it.
Yeah.
And that's true from the very first thing when we were 22 years old and we left to drive across the country. We had researched all the states we were going to, like, I don't know if you've been to the Corn Palace in South Dakota, but we have, because we knew that was there. We went to see Devil's Tower before the movie came out with the girl going, they're here. There are things that we have done because we researched, and that's part of the whole excitement of the trip.
Definitely. We're actually coming up on an hour, and this has been very educational. I've learned a bunch. I want to say in some areas I won't have to travel to because you've given us so much information. So I appreciate that. Wrapping up here, I'm going to show your map that you shared with me. It's a little bit tougher to see with the blue dots and your push pins of every place you've been. But maybe you could share with us, what does the future travels look like? I know that we can't do any major travel this summer, but what are some of future places that you want to go to, Mary?
Well, right now, if life were the way that life was supposed to be, Aiden, Ed, and I would be in Paris.
Okay.
We had a trip to Paris planned leaving July 2nd, so we would be there right now. We were going to spend most of the time in Paris, but we were also going to go up to Normandy. So we'll have to redo that trip. Aiden took French at John Glenn Middle School during 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. He starts French 2 at La Quinta when he goes back to school. And so he wanted very much to go to Paris. And he told me he wanted to take Nana to lunch at the Eiffel Tower. And so we had reservations. We were ready to go. So we'll have to redo that one. We're hoping to do the South Pacific. We've not been to Tahiti or Bora Bora or any of the islands in that general area.
I would love to be a guest on that trip.
Well, that one will include the kids. That will include the three, Marcy and her kids, because we want to see them enjoy all of the water sports. We've Aiden and Marcy have been diving. They've been zip lining. They do all the things that we don't want to do at our age, but we watch them do it, and so that's been really, really fun to look at their lives. Ed and I want to do a cruise. Hey, Jim, you can look into this one. Ed and I want to do a cruise around South America. So one that would start, I don't know, wherever, and then go all the way around. We've done the Panama Canal, so we don't really feel the need to go through it again, but would love to see the new canal. When we did the Panama Canal, it was the original, so would love to see the new one. So a cruise around South America. I want to go to Easter Island. It's a place I've always wanted to go. And Mary, you talk about Botswana. We would very much like to do a trip to see the gorillas.
It is awesome. It is absolutely, do the camping. There's you can do a dry camp, a wet camp, and we stayed like 3 or 4 days, and they only had like 10 camps at each site. So there wasn't a lot of people, and then you really got to do when you came back at nighttime. We had our own private guide and Jeep. And when you come back at nighttime, they have this huge feast in the dark.
Yeah.
And, it's
and all of our, like you said, all of our African travel in Africa has been in camps, has been tented camps, which, believe us, are not as primitive as you probably they are. They have showers and everything, but have been in camps. We were actually, when we were in South Africa with Aiden this last time, the owner of the camp was cooking meat, grilling meat, and we had hyenas trying to get into the camp. They were all around the camp trying to get in. That was a little weird, but they could smell the meat. So, and Rick's telling me Fiji is amazing. So yeah, definitely on the list. We definitely want to go to those islands. Ed, am I forgetting anything? No. So those are still on the tops. Everybody says, "Oh, you've been everywhere." Well, no, we haven't.
There's a lot more of that map you could fill up with push pins.
Jordan. We would love to go to Petra, to Jordan. We'd like to go to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai. those are a couple places that we've not yet been to. So the list hasn't gone away.
Okay. Well, I love that you're now experiencing these trips you did with your daughter, but now you're experiencing with your grandchildren. So that's just fantastic.
It is. It's wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. We're coming up on an hour, and this has been the quickest hour that I've had in one of these. And Chef Mary, I'm sure you'll agree as well.
Oh, it's awesome.
All right, let's all have Jim Duke plan a trip, and we'll all go together.
There you go.
Challenge is on, Jim.
Is Jim your cruise planner?
He is now. He wasn't. We didn't know Jim. I've only been with the district for 6 years, so didn't know Jim Duke, but he put together a wonderful trip that we took with friends, and it was I know this sounds terrible, but it was one of our just like quick getaway trips. It was a cruise down to Mexico, and we had a wonderful time and just enjoyed the experience of travel without going to someplace totally exotic.
Right.
Yeah,
right, definitely.
Report. That's
always funny though. We tell people we've seen more of their home country than they have.
Right.
Like with Mexico, we've done both coasts. I love the Mexican Riviera side of the coast as well. So, both of them are really wonderful. We were talking to somebody from Norway one day, and he was, love my country. And we said, have you been to Svalbard? And he's like, no, because Svalbard is north of the Arctic Circle. And so not many Norwegians have actually been to that part of Norway. And of course, it's so true in our own country. And our own country is so amazingly beautiful. Everything there is in the world, there's in our country. We have deserts and we have rainforests.
Just right here in California.
That's right. So, we're a big believer in seeing your own country as well.
Yeah, most definitely. It took me 10 years. It took us 10 years before Tara and I started really traveling around California. We just absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm sure the three of us could speak all day about this kind of stuff. But I know that I've got some appointments, you got some appointments, and
Chef
Mary, I wish I had your schedule. I'm sure it'd be a little bit easier right now.
Oh, yeah.
But,
exactly.
Mary Perry, thank you for taking the time to share about all your travels and everything that you do for the district.
Thank you.
From now on, the people that are watching, that will be watching in the future in Desert Sands, they can always speak to you about helping out with something that they got to release to the press, or if they need some travel tips, they can always give you a call.
Hey, invite me if you have a geography class.
There we go. Excellent. Yeah, most definitely. Well, thank you very much, Mary.
Bye-bye.
We'll have a good one. We'll see you later.
You guys too. Bye-bye. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Chef Mary, pretty amazing trips, huh?
Oh my God. My next trip is to Rochester, New York.
Okay. You're going to go see your sister.
We're going the week before Thanksgiving. We're going to be celebrating all the birthdays that have an aunt. My brother is 60. My daughter-in-law is 40. I'll be 80. It's going to be Carol's birthday. So we're going to cram them all into one. We got this incredible airfare for $200 a person round trip.
I bet right now. Geez, definitely.
We're taking the red eye in. The kids are going to go up to Niagara. So we're just hoping that all of this COVID is going to be gone by then, so we can take the trip.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
We're taking all the grandkids and seeing my sister, and so we're pretty excited about that because it's been a long time since I've seen her. And as you get older, you start thinking, better be traveling.
Exactly. Most definitely. Well, you know what? I just want to give Mr. Duke another plug. He's one of our people that watches this all the time. And he just said this was a great show. Mary kind of plugged him in regards to being a travel agent and hooking her up with some cruises and so forth. I used Jim for a cruise that we set up for, what was it? There's 7 of us that we did a bachelor party for down to Mexico and back. And he was great with setting that up. So Jim, I want to make sure to give you a plug there. You definitely. But so Mary, we've got Thursday morning. I want to share real quick. Thursday morning, we're going to have a special treat. You're going to meet, you've probably met Marta before, Marta Shand in the kitchen. She's in nutritional services. And then we're also going to have Jan Diaz, who's in our communication department. They're going to come on, and we're still working on it. They're going to send me some video. I'm not sure if we're going to go live, but they're going to talk about how they are avid hikers. So I picked up hiking the last couple of weeks here. I'm, just doing like 2 to 3 mile hikes. These ladies do crazy things like 8 and 10 mile hikes when it's 110 degrees out. So I can see Mary Perry's face in the background. It's kind of funny. Yeah, it's pretty amazing what they do in this heat, and we're going to talk with them on Thursday. So, Jeff Mary, I'll see you on Thursday when we talk about this.
I will, because I'm going to hike out to my car.
You got it. You got it. I'm gonna turn this off right now, and I'll catch up with you in a second, guys.
Okay.
We'll see you on Thursday.
See you guys. Bye.